Hi everyone, my name is Dasha and I am a mom to now a 2-year-old Jasher. We've been following the early education program since he was about 8 months old. And it's an interesting story because when he was born, it's not something that I really was planning to do or was reading into. In fact, I was more concerned about delivery and all these initial stages of having a baby. So once, we got used to that, to having a new child in our house, I started to think about, what do I want for this kid? And, I'm an older parent, so I kind of passed those stages of self search, I suppose, and it seemed like an opportunity was presenting itself for me to explore myself in this new role as a mother, and try to maximize what I can do for my child. And it almost seemed like a came to me as a new important job that I have to do. And looking back in my life experiences, I've have so many skills that I never got a chance to use in my lifetime because my job took me outside of my education field. My job gave me a lot. I learned a lot in 20 years of being in hospitality industry. That's where I'm at. But my education was actually in regional studies and international relations, and languages. So that was my field of study that I never got to implement in life. Um, and in fact, when I was in college is when I first came across, the concept of early education and giving your child multiple languages and teaching them young. When we were taking Japanese and Arabic, I remember my Japanese teacher told us about a family that's just looking for, young girls that speak other languages other than our native, which is Russian. And all they wanted the child to do with this young woman, is to play, but to play in a different language. And we were curious as to is that really a working approach? And that's when I learned briefly about some Japanese writers that talk about early years being the most significant years in the formation of intellectual capacities of the child, and that by simply exposing the child to other languages from the very beginning, is good enough to give them the skill of speaking that language. So that was language related. And of course, I have a lot of experience in languages myself. English is my second language, and I took Arabic and Japanese. I also studied some German, some French in middle school. So that's not enough to speak, but it gave me an acquaintance with different language systems. So when my boy was about 5 months old, I spoke to somebody, an acquaintance, this woman that frequents our establishment at my job. And I was like, I feel like I need to give him the languages that I know. That's why I'm speaking both with him from the very beginning, English and Russian. And I was kind of at that time just, naturally dubbing the languages for him. I would say something in English and then I would say something in Russian right away. His dad doesn't speak Russian, so therefore it was just kind of on me, and I enjoyed it. I think he was gaining comprehension and understanding right away. They just kind of respond to a mother when she speaks, when the mother speaks to a child. There's like this magical touch that we have. So I knew for sure that he's going to be bilingual. But this woman told me, look into Glenn Doman, the author that developed these intellectual programs for the children. And I know that they were working with actually injured children and neurologically undeveloped children, or some children that had brain injuries. And what they discovered is that brain develops by use. So basically, the more you engage your child's brain in the beginning, by different use, and reading is one of them, languages is another one, giving them a wide range of knowledge is the third one, and that's the encyclopedic knowledge, and of course math. So Glenn Doman developed these study programs that are pretty simple to follow once you get an understanding of them. And he and his team have discovered that children of young age are so capable of developing amazing abilities as far as they're given the opportunity to exercise these abilities. Later, there's more research built on top of that. Now, there's Makoto Shichida. That's another name in the early education industry that people have heard about. He worked at the same time in Japan, and they were building pretty much a similar system that through love and through proper approach to parenting, when you just accept your child for who they are and for giving them opportunities to grow and to learn, you can develop amazing personalities. So I read, first I was looking up, information on Glenn Doman that I could find, and I couldn't find much. It was a lot of confusing stuff. So I'm like, well, you know what? I'm just going to go to the source of information. And that's kind of the time when I started reading Maria Montessori's writings too. And I read all his books. It took me a couple months before I got myself together to start implementing these programs, because I had to prepare the materials and just try to like fit it into our schedule. And at first, I was really just moving on faith. I remember his dad was a little bit skeptical, and he was kind of laughing at me when I was making the math cards for the boy. And the words, he was just like, yeah, do whatever it is you're doing. I don't know, it's you. Go on. And then around 13 months old, when the boy started producing a little bit, some words, he actually read for us for the first time. It was the simple word dada. It was this book by Jimmy Fallon, and the big letters dada. And to be honest, I read it for him the first time. I said dada, but then when we were flipping the pages, I was pointing to the word, and I was asking him, what does this say? And he would say dada, because that's one of the few things he could say back then. And then, of course, his dad was impressed. And this was the first results that we've seen from these programs, from the reading program in particular. And that definitely put a big level of faith, like that added to my faith into the process. And we started continuing with the encyclopedical knowledge and the math program. And then little by little, I kind of built on top of that, and I added more methods and more little materials, just to, employ the same concept of introducing the child to the knowledge, to the vast knowledge that we adults possess, from the very beginning. And the interesting thing is that the more you stimulate their ability to memorize things, the more opportunities you give them to build on top of those opportunities. So now the boy is 2 years old, and he can read commercial print, and a lot of times he surprises me. I'll ask him about words that we've never seen before, and it looks like he can blend without being taught how to blend the letters and the sounds. So it's an exciting process. It's very interesting, and it's a great way to build bond with your child. I will describe the programs briefly for you. So the reading program is called a global reading approach. What that means is that you're presenting the entire word to the child, and you rely heavily on their ability to memorize things. And they memorize so well because they're just like a blank hard drive. Whatever's around them is going to be imprinted onto that brain. So you start with simple words, then you build into like little phrases, and then little phrase books, and then eventually you transition to books that contain words that you have taught them already. Nothing complicated, very simple, large, big font. The font has to be separate from the pictures, so that's another rule. But I'm sure you'll come across the description of these programs here, and then in other sources once you start. And that's pretty much it. It's really simple. You show words 3 times a day for like 5 seconds, and then you just progress in the complexity of words and putting them together. And then eventually, in like a couple months, you arrive at the book stage, and then you continue on. You continue giving your child more stimulation in the form of words. I started with English with mine, and then I added Russian a little later on, and I wasn't even following the program to the T, yet we're still seeing results. He's a little stronger in English because I feel like I put a little more emphasis on it. Russian is a little easier to read in general. So now we're kind of working our little, I don't want to call it weaknesses. We're working on our areas of opportunity in Russian, and then I added Spanish later on, and now we're also doing Japanese. So my goal is to introduce different scripts and different writing systems to the boy. I don't have huge expectations and don't expect him to be fluent in all languages. If it comes, it comes. I might need to employ, help. I might need to hire some people to help with speech development. But for now, we're just really having fun with the process because it became a part of the child's routine. It doesn't take us long. 5-10 minutes in the morning, 5-10 minutes in the afternoon, sometimes in the evening, sometimes not. Some days we skip, but we just, it's a part of his play now. He knows his words. He knows that this is what we're doing. We're reading. He's calling it by name. And now as his speech is coming in, he's giving me more and more and more every day. With math, that one can be a little tricky, but yet still very doable. You're still introducing them to the concept of quantities. You're giving them the dot cards, and you just quickly flash the dot cards in front of them. You start with 1, go to 20. Once you got to 20, you now can start putting them in equations. 1 + 1 = 2. Again, 3 equations is all you need per session. And then you just kind of build on top of that. You then introduce subtraction and division, multiplication, concepts like larger or equal, not equal. Then you can do longer equations. It's kind of like depends child to child. Some children are a little bit more interested. Some children are a little bit less interested. But as far as you keep that a part of their exposure daily, that's when, they kind of absorb it. And later on, they're going to be able to have a stronger math sense because you've introduced them to these concepts early. And the last program that we use is called the Encyclopedic knowledge. The concept is similar. You show several cards per session, and you just show them different, categories of knowledge, encyclopedic knowledge. So that's animals, insects, geography, maps. Actually, in my Etsy store, I put together 7 files that contain animals from different parts of the world. So like there's North American animals. So now he knows that this is North American. These are animals that live there. Now he knows that Mama was born in Eurasia. So, he knows the maps. You can go further into like regional maps, the countries. So you can start introducing flags of the countries. You can do maybe famous people if that's what you choose to do. You can do other areas of knowledge like musical instruments. There's so many ideas, really. It's endless. It's endless. So once you presented them with these different animals or foods or herbs, insects, then you can start building on top of that and telling them about these things that he knows about. So it's a continuous process. It's very interesting. There's images involved. You can include other materials as well. And it just expands your child's capacity for knowledge acquisition. So just like with muscles, if you train every day, you do squats every day, you're going to have developed thighs. If you're a swimmer and you go swimming every day, you're going to have a developed chest. If you do these little exercises for your child that don't take longer than 10-15 minutes per day, then you're basically exercising their brain muscle. And what that equals to, along with physical development, by the way, physical development is extremely important. It all kind of comes together. What that equals to is a child that is able to perceive information and the child that is able to retain that information. And what is knowledge if not retaining information and having strong memory? That's what all academic studies are based on. Other skills like logic and critical thinking, they all come later when the child will acquire those skills. That's, it should be age appropriate. So all expectations should be age appropriate. For now, we're just basically giving the child the knowledge. What he's going to do with it later, that's, personality based. And you're preparing them for a lifetime of being able to read, being able to perceive information, being able to understand that information later on, and moving through life with that skill. So I strongly encourage all the parents that are interested and that are here to attend to look into these programs. There's something that we haven't really tapped into with my boy, like the whole Shichida school of thought. I know they have other exercises like memory training and logic building. That's still something I'm going to explore for myself and the boy. But for now, we've been on Doman programs and my improvisations to add to them. And I'm just seeing a beautiful development in this child. Everything has to be accompanied by love and by appreciation of who they are and by respect. And again, it hopefully translates to a good bond that we will build together throughout life. And I'm excited to see more results. They're coming in daily, so it's a never-ending process. Once you start seeing what they can, return to you. Um, in the form of skill and knowledge, and that just keeps you going forward. So I really encourage everybody to um, jump on the wagon, and just start teaching your child to read, to do math, and to give them as much knowledge as you can as early as you can.